I wonder how all that cultural diversity is going in New York City. Oh, yeah, it's going swimmingly. Great as usual. As in other parts of the country, people are deciding to take the law into their own hands, like this man.
Dallas and 12th, the Lowry Apartments. We're down here to chase these Venezuelans off.
Yeah, something tells me his plan won't work out too well, as of course the fact that an American is doing this and resorting to these types of actions is highlighting how immigration is a major problem that we're going to be discussing here in this particular video. That is a very convenient problem for the Democratic ruling establishment elite that, of course, not only profit off of it, but are using it as a way to codify their positions of power forever. They did this in Europe. The effects on Europe, pretty bad. We'll get into those statistics too, as the data is pretty jarring, as most of it is already being censored away from the general public. We still have some, though, don't worry. As today, the cover of the New York Post is highlighting how migrants are not just flooding into the United States, they're also flooding the justice system, as New York City is reporting that up to 75% of arrests in Midtown Manhattan are specifically from illegal immigrants. As they have a headline that reads, "Border Crisis Shocker, 3 out of 4 arrested in Midtown are migrants," as they specifically detail how specific sanctuary laws are handcuffing cops, preventing them from being able to actually deal with this issue. As we keep hearing about atrocious story after story of violent criminals, incident after incident of everyday Americans that are just trying to make ends meet, being targeted, being victimized by individuals that are just literally allowed to do it again and again. As we learn about crazy stories like the one about Jefferson Masleando, a migrant that is 31 years of age from Ecuador that has already been arrested 5 times since arriving in the United States earlier this year. This as the New York City Police Department is barred from tracking immigrants and their status, as New York City literally passed into law a lot of these larger sanctuary city resolutions that are allegedly there for equal protection, when in reality, they allow hardened criminals to become repeat offenders while also thwarting the federal government's efforts to try to deal with the skyrocketing crime that, of course, is associated with these migrants. As a former district attorney in Queens, Jim Quinn, came out and said New York City eliminated a tool to get rid of violent criminals. Quote, "What a mess. The sanctuary city law is pathetic. It's disgusting. It's, quote, crazy." As even the New York City's mayor's office is asking the city council to change these sanctuary laws in these cities, as they are even complaining about not having the proper authorization to coordinate with ICE officials in order to deal with these hardened violent criminals that are repeat offenders. As taxes are taken out from the person living in New York City that was there legally and literally given for hotel rooms, debit cards, in some instances, cell phones, and other services that are just greatly provided to random people that haven't even been probably identified. As the mayor of New York City previously issued that New York City is a sanctuary city, all are welcome to come here. And then a couple of weeks after that said, hey, can you guys please stop coming here? As of course, a huge, overwhelming amount of money and government resources have been spent on replacing the current population of New York City that, of course, lived there originally, as rent prices have gone up. Hotel prices have gone up, mainly because housing is becoming more sparse, since there was a deliberate effort to try to import more people. And with basic supply and demand kind of economics, it's pretty clear the more people you have, the less housing you have available, therefore making it more of a scarce commodity, therefore making it more of an expensive commodity that has already put more pressure on the average New Yorker. As of course, the same situation kind of unfolds with workers, as the opposite scenario kind of unfolds there, as there's plenty of workers now that are willing to take any and every job. Therefore, the demand for it is a lot lower than it was before. Therefore, the wages also go down dramatically. What I'm describing to you here is something that Bernie Sanders used to warn about, and now he cheerleads, as of course this was previously the larger Koch brothers plan that he described previously beforehand that now he is silent about. As in places like Queens, New York City, one police officer said that they had so many migrant cases that they had to call in an extra Spanish interpreter. A court official came out and said, "Come on Mondays. Almost every case is a migrant." Another law enforcement official said, "Most of these people we arrest are professionals. These aren't their first arrest crimes." As of course, what's happening in New York City is just absolute bedlam, absolute insanity that is being curated, organized at the highest levels by the Democratic political establishment that is going to be relying on a lot of these people that they willingly just walk into the United States for their future support for the Democratic political party, which overwhelmingly, statistically, they vote for and support. This as still, as of right now, 64,000 migrants remain in the city's shelter and are on the city's social service system that, of course, has been strained significantly and has been taking away resources from predominantly black communities. This later plays on the larger kind of political circus that we're all dealing with right now, which we're going to be talking about in a little bit. As currently in the making of this broadcast, there's a viral video going around social media right now, allegedly highlighting a conversation with a police officer that is describing some of the absolutely absurd situations that local law enforcement have to find themselves in. Now, before playing this clip, it's also important to note here that we are not able to, of course, verify where this clip took place in, nor the authorities that, of course, are responsible for this larger comment. As, of course, a lot of the details behind this video still remain kind of vague. And before getting any of those kind of confirmations, it's important to note to you that we still haven't been able to verify the exact details of what is being said and described here. As the video in question might be fake, but I think it's still worth listening to, as what they're describing sounds very familiar to what other police officers are describing all around America.
Already illegal. He already said that he went to...
Okay, hold on. Let's back up a little bit. First off, we're a sanctuary city. Even if he is legal here, we cannot call ICE.
Okay, but you still have to report that, right?
No, we don't. Because it's a sanctuary city. We do not report illegal undocumented.
So you're going to let a person who went to prison, he committed a crime in America, who's illegal right now, you're going to let him go free right now to this elevator?
That's exactly what I'm saying. Because we're a sanctuary city. I've arrested a double homicide suspect in this city before and let him walk out the door because we're a sanctuary city. We're not going to call ICE to come pick him up and deport him.
And even with that particular video still being in question to the larger validity of it, there are still a lot of other incidences that do highlight very similar situations that have unfolded here in the United States that are absolutely shocking and egregious. As, of course, Democratic politicians are not just incentivizing this, not just financing it with your tax dollars, but also institutionalizing it, as of course a new program in California is literally proposing giving $150,000 in down payment assistance only to illegal immigrants. Yes, you heard that correctly. Assembly Bill 1840 is being proposed right now, seriously considered, as other states like Oregon have already implemented similar programs where California taxpayers will be financing a larger program that would give illegal immigrants $150,000 in a loan that they would only have to pay back if they sell their home, as far as assistance to purchase one, which of course will only make homes less readily available for the average citizen out there, and also of course skyrocket the prices. And as California proposes that, they're also banning hot Cheetos. Yes, you heard that correctly. There's proposals there to ban certain potato chips, as of course homelessness, crime, absolute bedlam, public defecation and urination are becoming common everyday things that the citizens of California have to deal with. But hey, at least there won't be flaming hot Cheetos in schools, and migrants will be able to buy homes with assistance from your own money. As of course, there's a reason why all these Democrats, especially even Nancy Pelosi, are supporting a lot of the open border policies that have wreaked havoc on American cities, as she came out recently and says that the American dream is for illegal immigrants, as she is calling for them to be moved to be documented Americans for them to gain citizenship, while also at the same time funding their homes, as she is in support of this California bill, as she sees it as the next step for them gaining citizenship, and then when they do, of course, overwhelmingly voting for the Democratic political party, as happened in California, as of course before all these kind of larger immigration policies that took hold in America, California, even previously, was a pretty strong kind of Republican-like state, up until they opened up their borders and allowed people to come on in, which of course now makes California an overwhelmingly Democratic state. As this process is also being followed very carefully through the blueprints of what happened in Europe, that also is codifying liberal leftist control of their institutions through these same policies. Since, of course, these policies are reckless, they are detriment to the local populations, but they're good for politicians that want to continue ruling over you totally in an unaccountable, unquestionable way. And what better way to do that than, of course, to codify a lot of these laws, a lot of these rules, a lot of these future citizens that, of course, will be voting for them over right-wing Republican policies that, of course, stand up against them. And what happened in Europe seriously cannot be underplayed here, as, of course, it is significant. As many years ago, Stacey Doolittle did an investigation about her hometown, which changed dramatically as way of life, as she previously had it there, was, let's just say, significantly culturally enriched.
I went to school here. I even worked at the airport. And then I moved away. But now I'm coming home to find out if it's true that Muslim extremists are taking over my town.
Police, go to hell!
You and I will have to...
You look naked on the street.
Do I look naked? Do I really?
This, as it's fair to say, Europe, specifically Western Europe, has changed significantly because of their border policies, as, of course, there are clear major changes of way of life, specifically for women, that have been drastically changed through, of course, a lot of these liberal leftist policies that have very negatively affected them. As Real Clear Investigations is reporting that there's a clear link between immigration and crime. As, of course, there are bureaucrats, there are institutions within Europe and also within the United States that are trying to downplay the seriousness of this, as the data is staggering to the point where even countries like Sweden have specifically gone out of their way to stop reporting on crime based on demographics, as a lot of the very serious crimes, specifically against women and their bodies and them being forced to do unspeakable things, had a huge, dramatic upturn and increase that was very jarring, to say the least, correlated with, of course, their open border policies, something that is a big kind of open secret that a lot of people are afraid to even talk about in Europe. All of this, as very interestingly, crime in places like Venezuela has gone down dramatically, as the government there is reporting a sharp decline in violent crimes, as the local government there is saying, we did it, we're patting ourselves on the back, since, of course, the ever so very competent Venezuelan government is so capable of so many wonderful, amazing things, as, of course, a lot of people forget that, with an open border policy and people not even being identified going into the United States and then getting free bus tickets, airplane tickets, hotel stays, and debit cards, that maybe this was something that correlated each other. But, of course, a lot of people are afraid to make that larger connection here, as very interestingly, we are hearing a lot about Venezuelan gangs, specifically in major urban areas all throughout the United States, as Axios Denver is reporting that Venezuelan gangs are causing alarm in Metro Denver, as Newsweek even is reporting about a town being overrun by Venezuelan gangs, as there's reports of an entire apartment complex building being taken over by a Venezuelan criminal enterprise that allegedly is taking it upon themselves to collect rents and protection rackets, which criminal enterprises so routinely do. As even there's another report of 32 armed Venezuelans taking over another apartment building, this time in Chicago, as there's even a 9/11 dispatch call detailing the larger kind of problem that a lot of American citizens are having to deal with, specifically through, of course, their very diverse cultural incentives by the state, where some individuals, like we played in the beginning of this broadcast, are literally taking it upon themselves to show up in some of these areas in order to deal with some of the larger crimes that are happening here to, of course, the local population. There was also a fake news story about an American biker gang going to Colorado in order to deal with his Venezuelan gangs from an anonymous account, which turned out to be absolutely fake, as we reported it as soon as it came out, raising our skepticism towards a random account, a random face that was animated detailing how there was going to be a larger fight between these Americans and these migrants, as people are now taking it to themselves, saying that now a small delegation of boppers from the Warriors are headed to Aurora, Colorado. Other individuals are also describing allegedly hundreds of Italian mafiosos also making their way there. While there's also reports of the Yakuza making their way to Aurora, Colorado, in order to help the local population there take control of their, quote, apartment complexes. But this is the level of absurdity that we have reached here, the level of insanity that we have reached, that there's no going back from. As we have to remember, this has a direct impact on us, and politicians are selling us down the river for future voters that will be supporting them regardless of their larger actions and ramifications against everybody. As it's fair to say that a lot of these immigration processes has been weaponized against the American public, more specifically, more heavily, of course, against the black community that has a lot of their resources stripped away from them in favor of course, these new people that will be coming in and supporting the future Democratic Party. As Newsweek also highlights a lot of this kind of bigger conundrum for Kamala Harris, the previous border czar of the United States, that is trying to get away from that larger kind of moniker, as a lot of black voters are disillusioned with the Biden administration and their open border policies, since they see them for what it exactly is, and it's a larger attack against them, their sovereignty, their freedom, their resources, their country, their heritage, which is being directly under attack. And again, I do have to kind of clear the distinction here that, there's not a problem with immigration. There's a problem with open border immigration. There's a problem with globalists taking advantage of this entire situation, creating slave labor-like conditions for individuals that they profit, that they take advantage from over, of course, the average citizen that is finding it harder and harder to find meaningful work that actually pays them and housing that they could actually afford, which is directly correlated through these open border policies. A system that has been weaponized all in favor so the Democrats could be in power forever, as in just a few days from now, on November 5th, we will see if these policies worked successfully for the Democratic Party, because if they did, they will be in power forever. And this is why this issue is so important. Just not even on just superficial level of crime here. There's bigger things at stake here. And if you agree, share this video with your friends and family members, as of course the future of this country is at stake here. And if the Democrats have their way, there's going to be nothing that could ever question their dominance over everyone. As of course, this policy, they are following from step to step, reading the blueprints like they did in Europe. And look at the situation that they have there. That is absolutely unattainable, that is absolutely nowhere to reverse and go back from. Will that happen here? Well, with the way that things are going, probably. But hey, as they do all that, you can still get a t-shirt on thebestpoliticalshirts.com and check us out, as of course this is still one way to be able to fully express yourself. We just released this Make America Not Fat Again shirt, as the diabetes and obesity are way too damn high here in America. Check out these shirts. As of course, they provide you a way of not only expressing yourself, of not only doing a lazy form of activism, but more importantly, they also provide you as an outlet to let other people know that they are not alone when it comes to the larger discontent of society that we all have to deal with. As the shirts that we have here are pretty offensive, pretty thought-provoking, pretty critical of the current thing. Some of them are just funny. Some of them are just a little bit too on the nose. Some of them will probably get you kicked out of particular venues, but they're absolutely worth it, as of course the conversations that start with them are absolutely incredible. And I will tell you from my experiences wearing the shirts, like the shirt that I'm wearing right now, they do start up a lot of very fascinating interactions that I wouldn't have if it wasn't for these. I wish for you guys to have more of these types of interactions. I wish for you guys to interact more with your fellow man, to talk to your neighbor, to see that you're on the same page, to understand where we're at. And you can do that right now. just by going to thebestpoliticalshirts.com. Because you do, I'm still here, and I really do appreciate you guys doing not just your own form of lazy activism, but also getting activated and engaged on the local level, which is more important than ever, especially right before they censor all of the internet, which they're probably going to be doing very soon. So yeah, there's that. We got a major podcast coming up later on today, 6 p.m. Eastern. Stay tuned for that and a lot more, all here on youtube.com/wearechange.